Hello, I am meteorologist Kyle Perez with the National Weather Service in Springfield, Missouri. This Weather Unlocked, we will take a look at NWS damage surveys. So why does NWS do damage surveys? First, the damage surveys are used to determine what was the cause of the reported storm damage. Was it straight line winds or a tornado, or was there both involved in the storm damage? Second, if a tornado is determined to be the cause of damage, we then gathered the data to reconstruct a tornado's life cycle, including where it occurred, when and where it initially touched down and lifted, which includes the path length, its width, and the magnitude. We'll discuss the magnitude of tornadoes coming up on the later slides, which is the enhanced Vegeta scale. Lastly, we use tornado surveys and damage surveys for research and verification purposes in the NWS. So taking a look at what a particular day looks like for a damage survey, these are all the different factors that you have to take into account. It includes planning the day, then driving to the suspected starting location of potential damage, capturing damage photos and plotting GPS points along the path, discussing the damage with survivors and emergency management. You could even be providing media interviews if requested. And then once we return to the office, we assess all the information that is collected in order to determine a preliminary EF rating. Lastly, we'll take a look at additional satellite imagery and aerial footage, which may be acquired days after the event. Lastly, we will create survey maps and event write-ups on what our conclusions were from the damage surveys. Please note, this is just a process for just one tornado. So during a tornado outbreak, there could be multiple damage surveys that could take several days, with data taking several days to collect the longer and bigger the tornado path may be. So understanding the enhanced Vegeta scale, or EF scale, this scale is used to assign a tornado rating based on estimated wind speeds and related damage. So the surveys analyze damage indicators, or DIs, and then the degree of damage, or DOD, to those DIs. This helps estimate the better range of wind speeds that the tornado likely produce. Please note that the EF scale was revised from the original Vegeta scale, or F scale, to reflect better examinations of tornado damage surveys, so as to align the wind speeds more closely with associated storm damage. So let's take a look at some of the damage indicators, or DIs. Each one of these DIs has a degree of damage. These are all the different damage indicators that the NWS uses when doing damage surveys. It ranges from everything from small barns, farm outbuildings, to different homes, mobile homes, large retail buildings. It also includes things such as freestanding towers, freestanding poles, transmission lines for electricity, and even taking a more in-depth look at the different types of trees that are impacted, whether they are hardwood or softwood. From each of those damage indicators on the surveys, we then assess a degree of damage, or DOD. So taking a look at the different DODs on this particular example, this would be the DOD for a hardwood tree. Going 1 through 5 there on the left-hand side shows the more extensive damage the further you go down the DOD list. So a damage description with small limbs broken up to 1 inch in diameter is typically going to be somewhere in an expected 60 mile per hour range, with a lower bound of around 48 miles per hour and an upper bound around 72. As the damage becomes more extensive, such as trees uprooted, trees snapped, or even debarking of trees in violent, strong tornadoes, that's when the miles per hour, the degree of damage is then upped, as you can see in those particular examples. So taking a closer look at some images from the Joplin surveys from May 22nd, 2011, you can see that in these particular pictures, especially the one on the bottom right, where a tree is completely debarked almost, and much of it is snapped. So this would then correlate to extensive damage with a degree of damage or DOD around a 4 or 5, with the trunk snapped or trees debarked with only large stubs remaining. So once we gather that information, you take the highest value of the particular damage survey, and that relates and correlates to the enhanced Fujita scale. The lowest that a tornado can be rated is an EF0, which is wind speeds around 65 to 85 miles per hour. And then as you work your way up the scale, EF1 will be between 86 to 110 miles per hour. And then once you start to get into your stronger tornadoes with EF2 and EF3, this is where you'll see EF2 winds around 111 to 135, EF3 winds around 136 to 165, and then your violently strong and potentially catastrophic tornadoes are EF4 to EF5. EF4 winds respectively 166 to 200 mile per hour winds, and an EF5 tornado with winds greater than 200 miles per hour. So after we gather all of our information, this is what you'll typically see the NWS put out, with a damage survey being released to the public and to partners as well. As you can see, it will include the damage path that is seen on the right-hand side, with many different plots or dots along the particular damage path where we assess the different damage indicators and the degree of damage. With a particular damage survey, we will include the time that the tornado occurred from the start to end, the final peak EF rating, and the peak winds that were associated with that, the path length, the max width, and if there were any injury or fatalities that occurred with that particular tornado. Lastly, we will provide a brief write-up to go along with these particular tornado or damage surveys. Some key links on NWS damage surveys. If you want to learn more about the EF scale, check out this site here, the first tab listed. The second tab will take you to look at the damage viewer, which is where we log our data and can be seen from the public side. And then lastly, if you're interested in learning more about past events and past damage surveys in the Springfield area, visit weather.gov/sgf/events, where you can take a look at past events in the Springfield area. Lastly, we encourage everyone to become a Weather Ready Nation ambassador. If you're interested in becoming a Weather Ready Nation ambassador, just scan the QR code that is shown on the screen. Or you can visit weather.gov/WRN/ambassadors.